Hi, beautiful, beloved souls. Welcome to Mainly a Commentary channel, where I look at anything and everything through a lens. Hence, you'll find my content varies. I don't fit a particular niche. Now, I'm also a psychic medium and I am an author. My name is Gem Stone. And if you're interested in PDFs, learning how to channel or remote view, stay with me to the end of the video and I will give you my PayPal address and my email address. Okay, this might get you prepared for what we're going to talk about. This doll, let me backtrack a bit. I collect dolls. I have in my collection over 200 plus dolls dating from the 1880s to now. And if I have any doll that is suspiciously haunted, it's this one. This doll was, you can see she was made, she's a porcelain doll. She was made by a Wiccan on eBay, and I have owned her for about 3 years. And I'm going to show you my oldest doll before we get into the video proper. This is an Armin Massey doll. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And hold on a minute. I'm going to show the doll. You can see that's what she looks like. And look at her legs. She is very old, like the paint is coming off. So I paid 280 Australian dollars for her. And for the doll that I just showed you before off eBay, I paid $150 for a new porcelain doll. All right, let's get into the video. Just give me a moment to just put dolls down. I have shown you on my channel my collection of dolls. All right, let's get into it. Haunted dolls, frequency tuning, and the truth about haunted objects. Forget the dramatic chanting. Forget the candles, the lantern incantations, the dark music, and the YouTube thumbnails showing glowing red eyes. In this video, we're looking at haunted objects from a perspective that might annoy both hardcore skeptics and hardcore believers. Because after decades of collecting dolls and conducting intuitive readings and speaking with people who were absolutely convinced that an object was haunted, I've come to a surprising conclusion. Most haunted objects are not haunted at all. They're old. They're damaged. They're unusual. And sometimes they're simply victims of our imagination. Now, long before anyone panics, I'm not saying unusual experiences never happen. In fact, on this channel, I've got paranormal stuff myself. And I'm not saying residual emotional imprints cannot exist. What I am saying is that many people mistake age, appearance, so how they look, and expectation for evidence. I collect, as I said, antique dolls myself. I have over 200 dolls, some dating back to the 1880s. Some have cracked paint. Some have worn faces. Some have missing eyelashes. Some have eyes that seem to follow you around the room. And yet, despite years surrounded by dolls that would give Hollywood script writers heart palpitations, I have found very little that I would classify as genuinely anomalous. In fact, one of the few dolls that ever made me pause wasn't antique at all. And I've just showed you, it was a modern porcelain doll created by a practicing Wiccan. It looked exactly, or she looks exactly, what many people would imagine a witch doll should look like. Dark clothing, distinctive features, strong symbolism. Yet even then, I've never perceived anything malevolent, which raises an important question. If appearance or how they look isn't evidence, then what are people actually detecting when they believe an object is haunted? Let's explore that. The ugly doll effect. I've spent time reading discussions on haunted doll forums and paranormal communities. A pattern emerges almost immediately. Some post a photograph. The doll has chipped paint. Maybe one eye is crooked. In fact, I have a doll, a porcelain doll, with 2 different coloured eyes. Perhaps the face hasn't aged, or the face has aged unevenly. Within minutes, the comments begin. That thing is definitely haunted. Burn it. Get rid of it. It's staring into my soul. Nobody has examined the object. Nobody has touched it. Nobody has investigated its history. Nobody has documented unusual activity. The verdict is based entirely on appearance. Human beings are pattern-detecting machines. Our ancestors survived by identifying threats quickly. When something appears unusual, our brain starts filling in missing information. A cracked face becomes sinister. A shadow becomes a presence. A coincidence becomes a message. This doesn't mean people are foolish. It means people are human. Our minds evolved to err on the side of caution. Thousands of years ago, it was safer to mistake a bush for a predator than a predator for a bush. That ancient survival software still runs in the background today. Only now it sometimes mistakes an antique doll for a portal to another dimension. Residual imprints versus hauntings. Here's where things become more nuanced. Many spiritual traditions believe objects can accumulate emotional residue. Not spirits, not demons, not conscious entities, simply energetic echoes. Think about a favorite teddy bear, a wedding ring, a treasured photograph, a family heirloom. These objects often become associated with powerful memories. People can feel emotional responses when handling them, sometimes surprisingly strong emotional responses. As an intuitive practitioner, I find this idea much more plausible than the claim that every creepy-looking doll contains a supernatural occupant. Objects may carry stories. They may carry symbolism. They may even trigger intuitive impressions, but that's very different from claiming an object is actively haunted. Many paranormal investigators fail to make this distinction. Everything becomes a ghost. Everything becomes a spirit. Everything becomes evidence. The result is confusion. The problem with expectation. Let's perform a thought experiment. Imagine placing two dolls on a table. One is a beautiful porcelain doll worth thousands of dollars. The other has chipped paint and faded eyes. Now tell a group of people that one of these dolls is haunted. Many or most people will immediately choose the damaged doll. Why? Because appearances influence expectation. Expectation influences interpretation. Interpretation influences experience. This psychological effect is incredibly powerful. If someone believes an object is dangerous, they begin monitoring every sensation, every creak, every dream, every coincidence, every flickering light. The object becomes a magnet for attention. Soon, a narrative forms, and once a narrative forms, every event starts supporting it. What is frequency tuning? Now let's discuss a term that gets used frequently in spiritual communities. Frequency. Personally, I think people often use this word in ways that are metaphorical rather than scientific. When I talk about frequency tuning, I'm referring to adjusting our internal state, calming emotional noise, reducing fear, reducing expectation, reducing projection. Imagine trying to hear a distant radio station during a thunderstorm. The signal becomes buried beneath static. Our minds can work in the same way. Fear creates static. Excitement creates static. Bias creates static. The clearer our mental state becomes, the easier it is to separate observation from imagination. That, to me, is the real cleaner protocol. Not a ritual, not a magic not a magical phrase, but the removal of internal noise. Building a psychic firewall. Whether you're a psychic, a medium, intuitive, or simply curious, emotional boundaries matter. People often imagine projection as some elaborate mystical shield. In reality, I think the process is much simpler. Ground yourself. Remain calm. Observe. Do not assume. Do not chase sensations. Do not force interpretations. The moment we become emotionally attached to proving something is haunted, we stop observing objectively. The firewall isn't built from fear. It's built from neutrality. Neutrality protects us from our own projections, and sometimes our own projections are far more convincing than any ghost story. A live demonstration. Imagine we have a supposedly haunted doll in front of us. Step 1. Observe the object. No assumptions. No dramatic music. No declarations. Just observation. Step 2. Research the history. How old is it? Who owned it? What evidence exists? Can the claims be verified? Step 3. Document experiences, not interpretations. Experiences. Instead of saying the doll is angry, record I felt uneasy at 7:15 p.m. Those are very two different statements. One is observation, the other is conclusion. Step 4. Evaluate alternative explanations, environmental factors, psychological factors, memory biases, expectation effects. Only after exhausting ordinary explanations should we begin considering extraordinary possibilities. Annabelle, Robert, and legendary objects. The world's most famous haunted objects are surrounded by stories. Some stories may contain elements of truth. Others may have grown larger with every retelling. That's the nature of folklore. Stories evolve. Legends accumulate details. Mystery attracts attention. Personally, I remain cautious. Claims should be investigated. Evidence should be examined. And healthy skepticism should remain part of the process. Belief without evidence can lead us astray, but absolute dismissal can do the same. The sweet spot lies somewhere in the middle. The final frequency sweep. So, how do we know if an object is truly problematic? My answer may disappoint some viewers. Most of the time, we don't. Not with certainty. What we can do is approach the situation honestly. Reduce fear. Reduce bias. Increase observation. Increase documentation. Increase critical thinking. If something genuinely unusual is occurring, good methodology makes it easier to identify. If nothing unusual is occurring, good methodology prevents us from fooling ourselves. Both outcomes are valuable. Conclusion. The next time you see an old doll with cracked paint and unsettling eyes, remember this. Age is not evidence. Appearance is not evidence. Internet comments are definitely not evidence. Could objects retain emotional significance? Possibly. Could some locations or items trigger unusual experiences? Perhaps. But the vastly I'm having trouble like I always do with my words. The vast majority of allegedly haunted dolls may simply be what they appear to be. Old toys, silent witnesses to history, carriers of memories, not monsters, not demons, not gateways to darkness, just dolls. And sometimes the most mysterious thing in the room isn't the doll. It's the remarkable human mind looking back at it. If you've had experiences with haunted objects, let me know in the comments. Were they truly paranormal, psychological, coincidental? Do you think the answer lies somewhere in between? I'd love to read your thoughts. And if you do drop comments, please do so respectfully. If only the world was a little bit more respectful, more tolerant, less judgmental. So these are the PDFs I'm offering, and I want to say thank you for watching. Also, just because I'm offering these PDFs doesn't mean that I am an expert. At best, remote viewing is 65% accurate. And I always say that there are websites where you can practice remote viewing for free. I'm just trying to make a bit of money. So, there's my PayPal address. There's my email address. If you want both, it's $3. Just to let you know, remote viewing is different to channeling. Remote viewing is like you just get little pieces of the puzzle. Channeling is massive downloads. All right. Thanks very much for watching. Please be kind to one another. Smile at a stranger. It costs nothing to be nice. And smiling might just save someone else's life. Most of all, take care of yourselves because you matter. You are precious. Thanks again for watching. Love, light, and blessings. See you next time.